My middle name's Grace.
All right, today is Tuesday. And today we went over the score 2 check for understanding. Our scores were not very good. So we're taking a step back and we're going to talk about it a little bit more. And then we're going to take notes on the meanings of these words. All right, so what I had everybody do is look at what they did on their score 2, and we had highlighters. Everybody had 2 highlighters. Okay, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you about 3 or 4 different ways to figure this out. Okay, one way is to know the different angle pairs and where they are and if they're congruent or supplementary. So one thing we didn't do on this is people did not read directions. It said classify the types of angle pairs. So we're not just talking about one angle, we're talking about them in relation to each other. And it even gave us the word bank right here. Okay, so all those words, any of those should have been on this first line. The type of angle pair. For the second line, you only had 2 choices. Determine if the angles are congruent or supplementary. Those are only 2 choices, and that's all that matters when we're trying to solve for x. What type of angle they are, but the most important thing is if they're equal or supplementary. Are they equal to each other, or do we have to add them together to equal 180? Because that's what tells us what equation to use. If they're congruent, we would do angle 1 equals angle 2. If they're supplementary, we have to go angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 180 degrees. That's another thing that a lot of people left off. So when you put an answer, put your degree sign. I forget that sometimes too. Okay, so what I had everybody do in class, first thing I wanted to show it a different way. So I had everybody take your highlighter and to highlight across one set of vertical. Okay, there's one set, here's the other. Notice the lines are going in the same direction. This angle, this angle, this angle, and this angle are all the same measure. Okay, I can take another color and I can highlight the other 2 vertical angles. So all the greens are equal, they're congruent. Okay, so on this first one, if we had done that, we would see that 68 is green and X is green. So these are congruent. So if X is 68, if this is 68, X is 68 also. I had a lot of students put in congruent on a lot of these lines, but instead of giving me the congruent, the same degree, they gave me the supplementary degree. So that's why we're going to do definitions. I think there's some of you guys that don't know what the definitions are, or you're getting them confused. Okay? So I had everybody go through all of these, and it doesn't matter where you start. I could go through here and do all of these. As long as I'm doing the same direction, they're vertical, I know they're exactly the same. Now, these aren't the same as those, so I'm just talking about on the diagram. Then I can come through. These are the other set of vertical. So I have 2 sets of vertical. Every time I have 2 parallel lines that are cut. Do you mind shutting that? Thanks. Cut by 1 transversal. Now I can have 2 parallel lines that are cut by 2 transversals. But the only thing that's true, or the only things that are going to be the same, is this here. Now, on this side, they're not going to be equal over here, but these angles will still be called the same things. This is still corresponding. This is same side interior, but it's not equal to our same side interior. So they have the same names. And if I'm just like this side, I could do 2 different colors. Okay, I would have the same properties. Okay, I gotta get a different color. Oh, there's orange. okay, I still have 4 different angles that are going to be equal and 4 that are going to be equal there. But they're not equal to each other because these lines are not parallel, okay? Now, and it would still be the same with my X's and O's. If I did this X, well, I'd have to use different letters over there. Never mind. Okay, so I've done this, and this is the same thing that we did the other day where I could label this X. All these are my X's, these are my O's. I don't have to do both, but we're probably not going to have a highlighter on a test. ACAP does have a highlighter, but I don't know if it lets you change colors. It's the same thing. If you can remember this visual, it's a little strategy to help you remember which angles are the same, are congruent. So X equals X's, O's equal O's. And if I put an X and an O together, X plus O equals 180. Okay, oh, sorry. Don't have my page turned the right way. Sometimes I forget to look. So X equals X, O's equals O's. Now I could do pink X. Doesn't matter which one I call X and O, as long as they're the opposite. If you can know this, this tells you which are congruent, which is supplementary, and that's what we need. Okay, so what we're going to do is go back, or go kind of back step, and we're going to fill out a vocabulary sheet. If you are in CARES and you don't have one of these sheets, then you can just use a piece of paper. All right, first word is congruent. Okay, just turn it in there, that'll be fine. Did you and TJ copy each other? Okay, we'll see. Okay, congruent. Okay, the definition for congruent as far as what we're talking about is they are the same. Well, let's put 2 angles that have the same measurement. They're not just the same, they have the same measurement. They're equal. Okay, they're equal. Picture. Okay, if I have a 60, or say this is 65, these are 65, they're equal. 120 equals 120. What's important about this is angle 1 equals angle 2. This is our equation that we need to find the missing angles. Okay, this is what we're going to be using. When they're congruent, this is the equation. The first angle equals the second angle, if they're congruent. But if they're not congruent, the only other option is supplementary. For parallel lines cut by a transversal, that's what we're talking about, the properties of parallel lines cut by a transversal. And again, I can have 2 parallel lines, I can have 3, 4, 5, I can have 100. Oops. When they're cut by one transversal, this is going to be true all the way down. Okay, all the way down. Look how quick that is to jot that in there. And right now, if this is 1 and this is 10, I know that angle 1 equals angle 10 because they're both X's. If this is 8 and this is, well, that doesn't make sense, but whatever. Let's say this is 5 and this is 9. I know that angle 5 equals angle 9. This is just a really quick strategy to know which ones are equal. And it's always the vertical that look the same. This is going left to right, left to right, left to right, left to right. This is going right to left, right to left. See the difference? Okay. So congruent. Supplementary is the other option. If they're not X's or O's, X equals X, O equals O, but X plus O, so right here I have an X and an O. Here I have an X and an O. Here I have an X and an O, X and an O, X and an O, X and an O. I've got just as many X's and O's as I do vertical, okay? All of those form a line. Okay, when I have an X and an O, it's going to be angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 180 degrees. So supplementary means 2, and I'm going to put or more, because sometimes we may, if we do have maybe 2 different angles, I'm going to have supplemental here and here. Now, they're not going to be the same angles, but both will equal 180. Okay, and then sometimes I might have this. Now I have 1, 2, 3 angles that equal 180. So it could be more than 2 in certain circumstances. But 2 or more angles that add up. Add up. You know what I just noticed? In supplementary, there's an A for add up. In congruent, there's no A, but there is an E, although there is an E in supplementary too, but there's no A in congruent, so they can't add up. Supplementary, there's an A. That's just little tricks to help you remember. Add up to 180 degrees. So that formula is going to be angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 180. This is the formula you'll use to find a missing angle. Okay? Interior. 2 angles that are inside or in between, whichever you want to call it, the parallel lines. Okay, this is really important. I think some people are getting confused. So if here are my parallel lines, the inside is going to be in this area. Okay, if my parallel lines are like this, this is still inside. Okay, they're not relating it to the transversal. It's inside the parallel. Okay, if you can understand these words and what they mean, it's going to be very easy to name these labels. And that's something you're going to have to do on ACAP on your CFA. So opposite of interior is exterior. 2 angles that are on the outside of the parallel lines. So again, I'll just draw 2 different pictures. Exterior is going to be here. So you've got to remember, and sometimes it might help is if, like this one, if I want to turn it this way so I can see the parallel lines, because when I turn it this way, I almost colored this side. I almost did this side and this side, but it's not outside the transversal because we can't get in between the transversal. It's outside the parallel, inside the parallel. Okay. Now, one way to learn is by writing this down. That's one reason I'm having everybody write down the directions, not the directions, but the definitions, and draw pictures. And that's gonna kind of go into that memory. But what's gonna really help is if you'll take this home and look at it tonight. Or if you're doing it tonight, look at it tomorrow. Okay, study it before the test. That's where you get more knowledge. Okay, transversal. The line that cuts through. Now, if I'm going too fast for you on the video, all you have to do is push pause until you get finished writing and drawing, and then push start again to finish the rest. The line that cuts through 2 or more parallel lines. Okay, so here, remember, they can be all kinds of different ways. And they're usually straight. Mine doesn't look very straight, but it is going to be a straight line. All right. So the transversal is the line that cuts through. Probably should use a ruler. This symbol means parallel lines. You don't have to prove it or wonder. If you see this, like AB, line AB is parallel to line CD. Those mean parallel lines. You might also see it like this. If you have 2 parallel lines, you'll see like an arrow that's not at the end, but somewhere near the end. That also says we know they're already parallel, so then we know all the other things are true. And then other times it may ask you, how can you prove these 2 lines are parallel? By proving that some of these different kind of angles are supplementary or congruent. All right, just a few more words to go. Alternate. Okay, alternate is like opposite, different. Okay. Two angles that are on opposite, I'm just going to put OPP, sides of the transversal, not the parallel lines, the transversal. So both alternate and same side are connected to the parallel lines. Not parallel, I'm sorry, I just said that wrong. Transversal, not the parallel lines. Okay, so we have alternate interior and exterior. Let's draw an example of interior. Okay, those are going to be, if I draw one here, that's the interior. The other one has to be on the interior, and it has to be the opposite. So this is on the right, this one will be on the left. I could also do, okay, if I do one on the left here, I've got to do one on the right here. So I don't want you to think, unless it looks exactly like this, that it's not interior. Look, that looks different, but it's still alternate. One's on this side of the transversal, one's on this side, but they're inside the parallel lines. Okay, then exterior. Okay, if I put one here, this one is to the left on the exterior, so the other exterior right is here. Or I could put exterior right and exterior left. Okay, it's always going to be connected to the transversal. All right, the next one is the opposite of that, same side. Okay, two angles or more that are on the same side of the transversal. I'm just going to put trans. And again, we have same side interior, same side exterior. All right, so if I put a dot here for that angle, that's on the inside. This is the